Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is the second part of the second series from the wonderful mind of Girl from the Crypt. As ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story, entitled I live on a farm out in the sticks. Something weird is happening to us. Let's get straight into that. I was humming in a low tune as I rocked my baby brother back and forth. My arms felt like they were about to fall off. He had been crying for 30 minutes straight, and this turned out to be the only way to make him fall asleep. When he was finally snoozing, I had placed him in his crib and snuck out the door on my tiptoes, careful not to make any noise. I went to sit in a living room with Benjamin and Franco. The former had downed 3 juice packs since we had gotten home, and was now showing Franco that, when he stacked them on top of one another, he could pull out the middle one so fast that the upper one would land on the lower one without them falling down. I rolled my eyes, making some comment about how I couldn't believe he was 18, and went to make myself some cocoa. However, when I sat down, I noticed something odd. The juice packs Ben had been fooling around with were packs of carrot juice. Now, my mum loves carrot juice. She discovered it a couple of weeks ago and has been storing some at our house ever since. And while I'm not too fond of it myself, Benjamin absolutely hates it. I could hardly imagine him drinking it out of his own free will. Pointing out the juice pack's labels, I remarked, "I thought you hated that stuff." "Yeah, I don't know. I suddenly really feel like having some. And once I was halfway through one of these bad boys, I realized they're not actually half bad. Pretty delicious, actually." I shook my head and shot Franco a worried look. The goat man cleared his throat. "Mood swings, dizzy spells, and now you suddenly like carrot juice?" My brother shrugged. "So what? Thought you guys always wanted me to be healthier. This juice is literally made of carrots. If that ain't healthy, I don't know what is." I sighed and leaned back in my chair. "It's okay," I told myself. "Mum will be home soon. She'll fix this. It's gonna be okay." I could barely sleep that night. Instead, I laid in bed wide awake, staring at the ceiling. Maybe there was nothing to be afraid of. Maybe it was just the flu. Jerry had caught it, passed it on to Ben, and now his body was simply finding weird ways of dealing with it. Now that I thought of it, I can't remember Ben ever being sick before. It was just something that didn't happen, something that never happened. He was too strong, too lively and sturdy. Either sickness just left him alone, knowing that trying to throw him over was a futile effort, or they simply passed due to his strong immune system. All these strange, jumbled thoughts were racing through my mind, and all that time I just stared up at the ceiling. When I finally felt my eyes flutter shut and drifted off to sleep, I felt like I had been waiting for an eternity. I found myself in a bizarre dream. I was sitting in a nice, cozy living room. It was furnished in a pretty but old-fashioned manner. It looked vintage. The sofa I was sitting on was red, adorned with golden embroidery. It could have fitted well into an old mansion or castle even. The walls were high, and on the one right across from me hung a framed painting depicting a young woman with tan skin and blonde hair. And she was standing in a pond, her face turned towards me, but her body turned away at an angle, enabling both her arms and long locks to obscure her nudity. Her gaze was clear and piercing, even through the painting. I guess I knew it was my mother, but then again, I didn't. It's hard to describe. I got up to get a better look at the artwork. I recognized Susanna Blanche's hourglass figure, her signature alluring smile, and her raised brow. But she looked younger, somehow more youthful. I remember thinking that, if indeed this painting of her had been made at an earlier point in her life, she had not lost nothing of her beauty over the years. It was more like she had gained maturity, grace, elegance. My eyes wandered over her hair. It was a lot longer, so long in fact that it reached all the way down to where her calves merged with the pond. Its golden, shimmering strands lost themselves and disappeared into the murky water. I felt an alien sense of admiration regarding the picture, better yet, a tiny bit of pride. This woman, this breathtaking lady, was my mother. I smiled a bit. Whoever had made that picture must really be talented, I thought to myself. They had gotten everything I knew from her right. Even the golden undertone of her soft skin was visible, and her gaze. How was it possible to capture such a look using only some paint and a brush? Of course, no one had actually painted it. It was all just a dream after all. Lord knows why the painting was there at all, but I found myself so moved by it that even when I sat back down, my eyes remained fixated on it. I got up to look around, but it was of no use. Every time I tried to explore, I simply ended up in front of that painting again. And against my better judgment, I wondered if maybe someday I would look like that. If I would be as pretty as her. I know it looks bad now, kiddo, but it might happen a lot sooner than you think. The voice coming from behind me didn't sound like just one voice at all. It was more like if a person had recorded their voice multiple times and was now playing all the recordings at once, except they were ever so slightly out of sync. However, a sight even more unsettling was awaiting me. Upon turning around, my jaw dropped and I froze. There was an all too familiar face looking down at me. You're dead. Somehow, those were the first words I was able to force out of my mouth. It couldn't be. The man let out a throaty chuckle. No shit, Sherlock. I mean, duh. I appear in people's dreams now. That's about as dead as it gets, right? I can't believe it. Why? Why are you here? I stammered. He laughed once again, playfully tossing the skirt of his flowing white lab coat back as he sat down on a red sofa and leaned back, breathing a soft, relaxed sigh. And looking at me through hooded eyes, he smiled. Not happy to see me, huh? Yeah, thought so. Although I am sure we can put the past behind us, somehow. After all, you did get your revenge. And that means our little quarrel is resolved now, right? Little quarrel? You killed 3/5 of my family, and you resurrected 2/3 of them. Yes, exactly. 2 out of 3. My father is still dead. Well, yes, but you did have me torn to shreds by a bunch of wild beasts. Isn't that enough to quench your longing for blood? He was grinning widely, as if this was sort of amusing to him. His smug attitude damn near made my blood boil. I'm not interested in talking to you any longer, Doctor. I basically spat the last word at him. He had betrayed everything it stood for, after all. I'd like to wake up now, please. I'm afraid that's not possible. I have no control over your sleep schedule. After all, I'm just here, you know. He shrugged and offered an apologetic smile. By the way, now that we are, for lack of better words, stuck together for a while, I do believe we can drop the formalities. Why don't you just call me Blake? I was speechless, not sure what to say. I felt my hands instinctively form into fists before releasing again. And finally, I gave up and walked over to the couch and plopped down on its far end, crossing my arms in front of my chest and shooting my unwanted interlocutor a venomous glare. Fine, Blake. So what now? You're gonna tell me the moving story of your life that turned you into a raging maniac and justifies all the terrible things that you did now? I hissed. Blake cocked his head to the side. I could do that. I was actually planning on talking to you about the concerning changes taking place in your family home. But if you want my origin story, I interrupted him, rising from my seat. You know something about my brothers? He grinned. Yes. I think you could say so. Please sit down, though. Oh, and just a small warning, you won't like what you are about to hear. I raised my brows. I see now. You're trying to mess with my head. What? Oh, come on. Can't you trust me a little? Why the hell would I? I snapped back at him. Why is it so hard for you to understand that you killing my parents, Ben, and attempting to do the same to Jerry, left me kind of scarred? But I'm dead now. I can't even slap you or anything, Blake protested. Which is why you're trying to get to me this way. Did you think I wouldn't see through that? Why would you ever want to help me? Okay, I see why you're upset, but for real now. You should listen to me. This is important, I swear. He looked at me with what could have been almost mistaken for genuine care. I shook my head vehemently. You're a murderer, and you always will be, even in death. I do not want to hear a single thing you have to say. Oh, you're going to change your mind. He sounded quite angry now, too. Not menacing, though, just furious. We will meet again, and you are going to listen to me. Just you wait. I puffed at him before rising to my feet. My legs were moving all on their own, and as I walked towards the far wall, a doorway suddenly formed within it. That wasn't here before, I remember thinking before stepping through it and waking up in my bed. The sun was already peeking through the treetops over the woods, and I could see it through the window next to my bed. I tried to turn around in bed, but found that Waffle, heavy and large as always, had laid down on top of me. He was snoring quietly and was mindlessly chewing on one end of my blanket. I smiled and reached out to pet him. My palm travelled over his head, and he slowly opened his eyes and looked incredibly sleepy. Good morning, boy, I whispered. You want to get up, get some breakfast? I had a totally trippy dream. Waffle rose to a sitting position, his eyes fixated on me. The moony haze had vanished from them. He now seemed rather terrified. Straightening up as well, I held his gaze. What's wrong? He just stared at me. Finally, he said in an odd tone, Phoebe, I think you should go take a look in the mirror. I frowned, got up and walked over to the full-body mirror on my closet door. My jaw dropped for the second time right then. My face, my arms as well as the rest of my body, as far as I could see, had turned a deep shade of tea green. Wow. Such wonderful imaginative stuff from the excellent Girl from the Crypt. As ever, guys and girls, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. Also, if you guys could drop by the Reddit link that I'll leave in the description box over to Girl from the Crypt's Reddit profile, hit an upvote or leave a comment on one of her stories. It really does help her build her presence and her profile on the Reddit website. As ever, guys, I hope you're all well and happy and enjoying your working week. And above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.